Welcome to the SIWIKE podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SIWIKE podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier podcast. We're here with one of our new guest hosts, Deanna Rose, and she comes to us with a background in health and also in some naturopathic medicine. She's also had some time in swimming and modeling. And Deanna, if you can do a better introduction and let us know what you're doing now and then what you're up to, and then we'll get back to what we were like as a kid and growing up. So what are you up to now, Deanna?
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, Luki. I really appreciate this. I am currently, honestly, it's such a hard question because I'm up to so many different things. It's hard to pinpoint just one or two. So currently I'm working on my business. The name of my business is Wellth by Deanna Rose. So the business essentially, as Luki mentioned, is very much focused on health, both mental and physical health.
Right.
And on the side, I'm thinking of, branching out a little bit and adding art into my business as well. I think that's something that I forgot to mention to you previously.
Sure.
So yeah, just, think about different ways of how I can be of service to people from different perspectives, because what I find is, and I think a lot of people have found this, is that if someone says to you about one thing from one way, sometimes you don't quite understand what they mean by, whatever they just said. But if you hear it 100 times, but from 100 different ways, it really hits a spot at a certain point. So that's what I'm trying to do with people through art, through fitness, through health, through all these different things, is to just try to hit the spot and make it click with different people.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So one of the names that I give myself is kind of like a DJ for personal development. That everything's already been done, right? And it's all out there already. And to your point about the multiple perspectives, sometimes you just have to hear it in like a little different genre of music or whatever, right? In order for it to resonate. So I totally resonate with what you're doing. So if we can go back in time and talk a little bit about Deanna as a kid. So what were you like as a kid? What were you like growing up, and kind of take that journey from there until now? So what are some of the earliest fond memories that you might have as Deanna as a kid?
To be honest, I actually don't have a lot of childhood memories, just because there were a lot of negative memories, which my brain, just as a trauma response, blocked out. But as a kid, I was just an overall perspective. I was a very introverted kid. I was anxious, really scared about everything. And I was one of those kids, who I used to hide behind my mom's legs whenever I met new people, I was in new situations. And I was scared to do anything and everything. And then whenever I met new people, I used to just blush like crazy. I would glow up like a tomato, just to give you a visual. And my mom still makes fun of me till this day about, how shy I was and how I ended up turning out, which is really interesting. And I do think that how we were as kids, and the journey we put ourselves through, and the journey and the choices we make really makes a world of difference in terms of, the path we take ourselves on.
For sure. Yeah. And if you don't mind taking us through a little bit of that journey, because when I see you out there, you're the total opposite of being kind of a high introverted kid, and scared to do things. You're putting yourself out there and kind of being that model for folks to follow, and then also helping others on their journey. But so what was that journey like? So you're this shy introverted kid hiding behind your mom's legs, that sort of thing, and then what happened? So you're on a journey, you're growing up, and what are some of the key milestones along the way? And was it health and fitness that helped you out, or were there other things that helped you along the way?
Yeah, so there were quite a bit of things. So I grew up as a swimmer, and So I basically started swimming before I could walk. And
Okay.
so a lot of swimming, but the thing about swimming is that it's not a team sport. So
Yeah.
you don't really need to come in contact with other people. But swimming gave me a lot of confidence. It was something that I could just go to. And as a kid, I was a very fat kid.
Okay.
I always resort to food as a sense of comfort, which a lot of people do,
Hmm.
or a lot of people did. So through that journey, I was actually born and raised in China.
Okay.
And I moved to Vancouver when I was like in my early teenage years, like 12, 13.
Okay.
And I didn't speak a word of English. So when I got to Vancouver, I was, imagine this shy kid, didn't speak the language, had no friends, and didn't know what was going on. So I was even more shy, even more introverted when I first moved. And then my parents threw me into Air Cadets.
Okay.
And I remember the moment, the very first day, and my escape mechanism or my coping mechanism was always just run, just escape and just try to get away.
Okay.
So the first day, I remember my dad dropped me off at Air Cadets, and they were, doing drills, and they were talking, and I was like, I have no idea what is happening right now. All these people were just marching back and forth. And I remember, I think I was 14 or 13 at the time. And I had nowhere to run because I couldn't get home.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, so I need to just suck it up and do it.
Okay.
So I did it. And, and then the second day and the third day and all these different events or different, I guess, training sessions went by. And then from there, it kind of gave me a sense of, I guess, community
Hmm.
with Air Cadets. And also, through the years I was learning the language, making friends, and then got into swimming even more when I was in Vancouver. So I think just through the different experiences, I kind of came out of my shell. And then
Okay.
I started working when I was 16. So I started working as a lifeguard when I was 16. So I made a lot of really good friends. And then I realized, and for the younger listeners, I'm not trying to lead you astray or anything. I started partying when I was like really young. And I
Mm.
realized that, oh my gosh, like this is a way for me to bond with people, for me to actually get out of my shell and have a good time.
Right.
And I can speak from a very shy person's perspective. And I've worked with a lot of introverts, and I know shyness and introverts, they don't equate, to each other, but they're
Right.
very similar. Um, from my experience working with other people and my experience, being me, I know that even shy people want to socialize.
Hmm.
And there's that part of people where you want to be understood, you want to be heard, and you want to have that community, that bond with other people. So with me is, I really found that community through swimming, through
Mm.
arts, through um sorry, partying and making friends and bonding that way. And of course, different people bond different ways. Yeah. So I think that was kind of my journey of how I transformed into, yeah.
Yeah, sounds like a nice transformation. It sounds like one of the keys to that was probably your parents pushing you into
Most
Air Cadets.
definitely.
It sounded like that was a good training ground, kind of no pun intended on that side, to kind of get you acclimatized to kind of the culture and putting a little bit of that discipline. And then you found, I guess, a bit of a home connecting with other people, and this parting world started to manifest itself. And then what kind of started leading you to where you are now? So obviously you did some stuff in the health area. Was that because of swimming? Was that because of partying or arts or something? So why didn't you go into the arts or why didn't you continue on kind of the professional sports or athletic side?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So ever since I was a kid, so my uncle, my dad's younger brother,
Okay.
he developed schizophrenia when he was 19. So
Oh,
when I was growing up, we were very, very close. And the only reason why we're not really close anymore is because he's still in China and I'm here.
right.
I remember as a kid, I used to go to the hospital and visit him all the time. And
Mm.
back then, from what my parents told me, is that they were still putting mental health patients in straitjackets, which is really sad. And I think, even though I don't remember seeing him in a straitjacket, I think just the visits to the hospitals really made an impact on me. And even since I was a young kid, I remember telling my mom, I want to be a neurosurgeon. I want to help people with mental health issues. And I don't know why neurosurgeon. And then the funny thing is, just as a side note, my mom's like, why be a neurosurgeon? Why don't you just be a butcher? So much easier to just get through, right? You don't need to go through like 20 years of school. High hopes from a parent's perspective.
For sure.
But anyway, so then I really wanted to, go into psychology or psychiatry. And then when I went to, and through my life, through my teenage years, my young adulthood, I always volunteered in either hospitals or different facilities. And I've worked with patients with HIV, with autism, with conduct disorder, with all sorts of mental health issues. So that's always been my passion until I started working actually for the Ministry of Family and Children and Family Developments in BC, when I realized that they're so focused on the mental health aspect of things, not even from, in my opinion, not even from the right perspective.
Right.
And they're really just neglecting the physical components, like the nutrient deficiencies, the nutrition status of the kids. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear the rain. I'm really sorry. And so they're basically really just focusing on and giving medication to the kids.
Right.
So that made me really sad and made me really disappointed in the system, in how they treat mental health patients. So what I ended up doing was, of course, like you mentioned, I went into naturopathic medicine, hoping that, we can combine the physical with the mental and hopefully really help people from that perspective. And that's how I ended up where I was.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And I totally agree how a lot of the focus nowadays is on like mental illness versus mental health, right? You're really focusing on like the negative side and how to prevent that negativity versus, well, why not promote the good stuff? And a lot of those are handled with kind of that physical fitness, whether it be kind of exercise or diet, because unfortunately nowadays there's a lot of crap out there that you can buy in the food at the grocery store and stuff like that, and put that in your body, right? Which is quote unquote healthy, but maybe just through a label or some sort of technicality versus actually being good for your body. So so that sounds like an amazing journey. And then take us through a little bit about your journey into the kind of naturopathic medicine, and then kind of to where you are right now. So did naturopathic medicine end up being exactly as you wanted it to be, and it kind of helped enlighten you to all the wonders of the world, or was there something else to it?
Honestly, so I know, we're so focused on stuff that I wish I knew earlier. Is one thing that I wish I knew is that I wish I wasn't so narrow-minded. I wish I wasn't so, if I do this, I'm going to solve this problem.
Okay.
So with naturopathic medicine, I would say that I went into it hoping that it was going to be the solution for everything.
Right.
I love what naturopathic medicine stands for. I love the natural aspect of things. I love how it so focuses and respects the earth and Mother Nature. Mm-hmm. But what I didn't expect was how I got to be careful with my words here. How is not that much different from the conventional medical system, sad to say.
Interesting.
Is that, I know big pharma has basically corrupted a lot of the medical system, the conventional medical system. I would say the supplement industry is slowly going towards that direction as well, is trending towards that direction.
Right.
And there's a lot of competition amongst naturopaths as well. And a part of it is I really wish that, people are very supportive of each other rather than being in competition with each other.
Right.
And so that's more of, the administration side of things when it comes to the profession. But in terms of how, the reason why I went into naturopathic medicine in the first place was I was hoping that it was going to be, the solution to help people with mental health issues, because that's my background. But what I found was there was so much focus on the physical side of things that there was very, very little mental health issues or mental health, I guess, emphasis within the curriculum. I think we had one or two courses on counseling, but it was very basic, very, very, just bare bones when it comes to addressing some of the mental health issues and how, a clinician should speak to their patients. And then in terms of the other things is like supplements. Of course, for people who are really into supplements, I completely get it. Yes, resort to a supplement when there's an imbalance. But to me, I feel like, nutrition deficiency should be addressed, first of all, from food, because food is something that we put into the body every single day, and we need to put into the body every single day. And if a person, of course, we can't really reach therapeutic dose by just putting food into the body. But I do find that, if we are able to address the foundational stuff, the root cause of things, is much easier for us to make it sustainable long term. So that's something that I found was a little bit disappointing. But again, it goes back to the point of, I think the pharmaceutical and the supplement industry are taking over the world.
Yeah. And what I took from that is, I mean, naturopathic medicine as a whole is great. I mean, you're focusing on kind of whole foods, natural stuff, but there are components of it where obviously people are or companies are incented in certain ways, and it tends to be on the supplement side. And to your point, at the end of the day, if you bring it down to just eat more kind of real foods. And then if you have kind of the clinical need to supplement to a particular threshold or something in order to regain balance, but you really want to go back to the root and not just treat the symptoms as well, right? So naturopathic medicine is not a cure-all on its own, but it is definitely a good pointer to the right direction, which I think like more people need to look into. And then now there's more emphasis on kind of what's functional medicine, which is both the physical and the mental side together, where it treats you as a whole person, not just your foot, your arm, your leg, your stomach, your this and that. It treats you as an entire person as well. And I think they're starting to integrate more of the mental and the physical parts of it together as well. So, but I think medicine is taking a direction in the right direction, but it's a big establishment, so the journey is going to be a little bit longer.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, naturopathic medicine very much focuses on the whole person. And it's holistic medicine, essentially. And functional medicine is actually very similar to naturopathic medicine. It just different names, more money for people to get the title, essentially. And they do a lot more testing. It just, I think, it's very hard for I guess, a curriculum to be able to address everything.
For sure.
And not be skewed by money, by profit. Because I mean, if someone just says, just start eating whole foods, start doing this, nobody's going to make any money.
Sure.
Versus when they say, you got to go buy the red light, you got to go buy the Oura ring, I'm not affiliated with any of these people, by the way. But I'm just saying these gadgets that people need to get nowadays in order to achieve your peak performance, all these things. But do we even have a foundation in place, or are we just trying to reach for the gadgets? It's like the same thing now as conventional medicine is like, let's put a band-aid on it, let's pop some pills, and then hopefully things will go away, rather than doing the dirty work of let's try to eat healthy, let's try to exercise, let's try to manage our stress, let's try to sleep better. So
Absolutely, and I totally agree with that. Where I mean, sometimes just putting in that basic effort, right? Where it's probably not as expensive as you think, right? For a lot of these things, but you have to put in the effort because you have to get your fresh veggies and your fruits and all that good stuff, and get in your movement, your exercise, and all that sort of stuff. And that'll probably alleviate a lot of different things. But everyone's got some busy schedules, lots of work, lots of commitments and stuff like that, which makes it a little bit more challenging. So totally have to be able to balance that and whatever works for your particular lifestyle. So talk to us a little bit about kind of your current transition. So you went from kind of naturopathic medicine into the stuff that you're doing now. So you went more the entrepreneurial route, and talk to us a little bit about that journey. When did you and how did you make that decision?
I made the decision towards the end of my schooling, and naturally, as a clinician, or graduating from either conventional medical school or naturopathic medical school, people naturally think, oh, I'm going to work in a clinic.
Mhm.
And again, if I was still very, I guess narrow-minded is sounds like a very judgmental word, but if I wasn't open-minded enough to think otherwise or think differently, I think I would have just forced myself into a clinic room and just sit down and deal with patients every single day. But so we had our fourth year was our internship year, and I was, seeing patients every day. And I realized I don't want to be sitting in a clinic room. I don't want to be sitting in a clinic room, palpating people and talking to patients one-on-one.
Mhm.
It didn't drive me. It didn't inspire me. I didn't feel pumped to go into the clinic every single day. And of course, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because we need different types of people there to help other people's health mentally and physically. So that was I wasn't cut out for that. So what I realized is I want a very flexible schedule.
Okay.
I want to be able to travel whenever I want to. Of course, I started this during the pandemic, couldn't go anywhere. But I was definitely thinking farther ahead. And I was like, I want to build my own schedule. I want to be able to work out when I want to work out. I want to be able to travel whenever I want to travel. So what allows me to do that? And then I realized that, I need to be an entrepreneur. And I knew absolutely nothing about business. And so when I first got into it, it's a huge learning curve for me to try to understand how to build an online business, how to run a business, how to, integrate my skills and my knowledge. And I'm not like, my license is not active as a naturopath right now.
Right.
So what I had to do was basically understand the boundaries and the regulations of my profession, and what I could and what I can and cannot do.
Right.
And what are some other things I need to integrate into my practice. So there's a lot of planning, a lot of strategies involved when I first, shifted over to my own personal business. But of course, as things grow, you start thinking about new things, and new things always come up. But I think the most exciting thing about starting my own business is that I'm the boss. I always love being the boss. I don't like taking orders. And then when you're the boss, then you have to hold yourself accountable. You have to be responsible for your own decisions. And when things don't go as planned, there's nothing else or no one else to blame but yourself, which is, I think it's a great experience to have, to be honest. Is we can depend on the clinic isn't getting more patients in for me, or my parents didn't do this, my friends didn't do this, is all on me. So I think it's a great experience to have, and a really good way to experience life, because you're not only able to call the shots yourself, but also, when you make a mistake, you're able to pick yourself back up and say, okay, we got to keep going, because we have absolutely no other choice.
Sounds great. Yeah, I mean, the entrepreneurship route right now is one where so many people want to undertake. They want to be the founder of this and that, and be able to say that I am my own boss. But just for those that are listening, it's not necessarily what everyone should do, right? So just
No,
be
not at all.
definitely more self-aware in terms of why you want to do it, and some of the things. Because yes, all the flexibility is nice and all that great stuff where you can choose your own hours, but at the end of the day, you're accountable, you're responsible, right? That there's nobody else to blame except for you. So I think taking that ownership, if you're really willing and able to take that, I think entrepreneurship is a great route for you folks to take. So as we kind of round things out here, so what would you go back to kind of young Deanna in kind of the various life stages that you were at? What is some of the SWIKE that you'd share with little Deanna, maybe as she was kind of growing up, first moving to Vancouver, or on the swim team, partying or whatever? What are some of the defining SWIKE that you might share with yourself?
I think being able to see things from different perspectives.
Okay.
Things get put in front of us all the time, and we've all been conditioned and programmed to think a very specific way, depending on the family you're raised in, the culture you're raised in, and also the type of education you have received. We are being programmed all the time by society, parents, people around us. So I would say take a step back, and if you just look at the bigger picture, of what is going on, in this situation, and what are some of the things that you're looking at it from a very biased way. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but we're all biased in some sort of way. But if we're able to step into, let's say, the shoes of someone who's looking at the situation or the event or the person from a very, a very new perspective, a fresh perspective, we can find a lot of different things and we can see a lot of new things. So I would say definitely take a step back and try to see it from a fresh and someone else's perspective, if that makes sense. And I would say, focus on building relationships. This was something that I never ever focused on. I was always very easy to cut people off because I do have a temper, I admit it. And I've always believed that, okay, this person's energy doesn't jive with mine, I'm going to cut this person out because I don't think they deserve my time and I don't deserve their time, because it's just doesn't, we just don't jive. But now from what I'm realizing is that the older I get, the more I realize that, people come from different places when it comes to the things they do, the words they say. And oftentimes there's might be, a little bit of a miscommunication or lack of empathy, lack of understanding. So always give people a chance and always focus on building relationships, whether it's a neutral relationship or a good relationship. Just try to leave your relationships better than you found it. I would say that's something that I would definitely like to tell my younger self. Yeah.
Definitely, I resonate with that one, as I identify as an introvert as well. So for me, people weren't important, right? So I never, I temper in terms of getting mad, but I just never bothered getting to know folks. But I kind of see now how important it is, and it's that expression: it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I find that it's not even who you know, it's who knows you, right? Because sometimes you know a lot of people, but that's just kind of the superficial versus like, do they really know who you are and all that sort of stuff. And when you mentioned about your temper, what I found is that there's actually an author, Dr. Shefali Sabari, who has a quote that I quite like, and she says that what they trigger is something in you that you need to work on. Right. So oftentimes that whatever you get mad at, whatever you get upset, sad, or whatever it is, then it's just something maybe it was your preconditioned past, as you mentioned before, that said you made an assumption, probably a faulty assumption, and then you have to just communicate with them to see whether or not that's actually true or not in that particular circumstance. And sometimes it is, right, but oftentimes it's not, right? What you think. So developing a relationship in that way. And I think your other point about seeing things from a different perspective, and I think this is a skill that a lot of young folks actually need to learn and practice, because a lot of times, as you mentioned, you're just kind of given stuff and you say, well,
Mm-hmm.
it must be true because mom and dad said so, my teacher said so, my whoever said so, so it must be true. But actually
Mm-hmm.
thinking about that to say, okay, it might be true, but from whose perspective, from what situation, what circumstance does that make sense? And by taking that step back, and it might be through something as simple as journaling, or it might be as simple as having conversations with your friends, the close ones that you can have these interesting conversations with. I think that's definitely an important exercise to take the time to do as well. So what about
Most definitely.
what about in the areas of health, given that you are very focused on kind of the physical and the mental side of it? Are there any things that you'd want to give to yourself, or maybe some of the common things that you share with your clients and the people that you work with?
Yeah, most definitely. In terms of health, I mean, there's so many things. I would say, especially for the girls who are listening, don't try any diets.
Okay, interesting.
I see too many of that. And I admit myself, so I developed an eating disorder. I went through depression. I went through suicidal thoughts when I was younger. And so part of me always wanted to be thin, wanted to fit in.
Mhm.
And even as adults, I'm 32, and even as adults, I see clients who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s. They try diets, they try to starve themselves, they try to, basically to do anything with restriction and control
Right.
with food in order for them to control their external environment, essentially, is
Mm.
what's happening. And as humans, we don't want the thing, we want the feeling the thing brings us.
Mhm.
So it's not about getting a lean body, it's about feeling accepted, approved, loved, and feeling connected to other people.
Right.
So, and I would say my advice is to eat food, of course, in terms of food, I would focus on whole foods,
Mhm.
foods from the earth, what Mother Earth gives us, and try to, eat, like, if you are an animal eater, try to eat, like, I don't know if, for the ones who are still staying home, I don't know if this is possible, but try to get meat from like a local butcher place where
Right.
where the meat is coming from. You want to eat basically whole foods that didn't come from a factory,
Right.
because our bodies as humans, we are, I know this sounds so cliche, but we're one with the earth. We came from the earth,
Mhm.
and we need to be eating things from the earth, and rather than things that come out of a factory.
For sure.
So ignore the diets, ignore, whatever other things tell you, because that just overcomplicates things. And rule of thumb, eat whole foods, eat things that are fresh,
Mhm.
and just notice your body, pay attention to your body. And I remember when I was younger, I never paid attention to my body. All I did was abuse my body. I was like, oh, I'm young, I don't have to, I'm not going to be sick anytime soon. And when things are, fine and dandy, we never take care of it. But when things come up, for example, back pain, aches and pains and
Sure.
headaches, all these different things, that's when we start going, oh no, we should have taken care of ourselves. We should
Yeah.
have done this, this, and that. As you get older, you start noticing these things. But when you're younger, you're like, no, I got nothing to lose. So definitely pay attention to your body, because our bodies are always trying to tell us things. Symptoms are messages from the body.
Right.
Symptoms are your body trying to say, hello, can you pay attention to me? Because something's not right. Like, can you just, pay a little bit more attention? So, but don't overdo it. Sometimes a stomach ache is just a stomach ache, but if it
Sure.
persists, of course, pay attention to it. Forming that mind-body connection is so, so important. It
Right.
allows you to understand yourself a lot more, and they're constantly in communication. So you want to understand what that communication means to you for your own body.
For sure, and I resonate with a lot of those things where, like, in kind of the information that I understand is just like thoughts are for your mind, like feelings are for your body. So it's your body trying to tell you something, but it can't verbalize it. It can't talk to you.
Yeah.
So it has an
Yeah.
ache, it has a pain, it has a something that says something's not right. You got to take care of it. And on the whole food side, one of the easy hacks that I found was to, when you're eating, when you're snacking, when you're whatever, go to the fridge instead of the pantry. And the reason you do that is the fridge is where you put stuff to be cold, and so it doesn't spoil, right? And
Totally.
spoiling is a good thing, right? Because that means it's
For
natural.
sure.
The stuff in the pantry that allows it to sit for months, for years, right?
Oh
Well, there's probably
gosh.
something that if you internalize that and put in your body, guess what that's going to do to yourself internally, right? So I think that's a
Exactly.
useful hack. So, well, thanks so much, Deanna, for sharing all this useful information and your experiences. Can you let our audience know where they can connect with you, where they can learn more about what you're doing, and then what are some future aspirations that we can look forward to hearing from you?
Yeah, totally. I can let me just start with my website. Is Deanna, DEANNA Rose.com. My Instagram is the same, Deanna W Rose. Facebook, Deanna Rose. LinkedIn, Deanna Rose. Super easy to find. Yeah, and I do run challenges every month. It's called a Wellth Catalyst Challenge.
Mm.
And I think your audience can really benefit from this. So essentially what it is a very it covers all three areas. So the way I operate is very much about, movement, nutrition, and habits. So three of the very foundational pillars of our mental and mental and physical health.
Mm-hmm.
So we cover nutrition in the challenge, we cover movement, being very intentional and aware of our movement to maximize the results you get from your workouts.
Right.
And habits, I run daily 6 a.m. calls to set you up for success in the day. And of course, if you're a student in the summer, the last thing you want to do is wake up at 6 in the morning. But luckily, I run these every month, so you're more than welcome to join these calls, and as well as the challenge. And I do charge people for the challenge, but if you're a student, I'm more than happy to do this for you for free. But you just gotta commit.
Yeah.
So that would be, something that you can definitely join. And then I'm also working on a membership that I'm actually launching this week. It's called the Wealthy CEO. Very similar model, but it's going to be a lot more extensive when it comes to topics on mental and physical health, as well as, getting different experts to come in. So, I have connections with people like hypnotherapists, people like who are, let's say, like, I don't even know what they're called anymore. Anyway, so different types of people in the health field, they will come in and speak to you about, different types of I guess things that are really up to date and relevant within their field. So that's the membership program. Yes.
That's perfect, and we'll link all of that in the show notes. And for those that didn't notice, Wellth is actually WELLTH, where it's more focused on that wellness. So I love that you have that focus as well. So and the 6 a.m. calls, is that Eastern, or is that Pacific, or some other time zone?
Yes, is Eastern.
Okay.
So if you're in the West Coast, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to get up at 3 in the morning. I'm kidding. All the calls are recorded, so I always welcome people to just go back and listen, because there's just so many really good nuggets. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but they're really good, and I put a lot of time and effort into planning them, just because I want to make sure that I maximize the benefits people can get within that hour. So yeah, most definitely, I'm happy to even share the recordings with you, and you can send it out to your audience if you like.
That's perfect. So thanks so much, Deanna. And again, we'll link all that, and hopefully, well, I'm not sure if I'll take you up on a 6 a.m. call, but you'll find me there. But I'd love to have you back for a future episode where we might do like a deep dive into kind of naturopathic medicine, maybe the swimming side, or entrepreneurship, or maybe even that art and creativity that we didn't really dive too much into. But thanks so much for joining us for this episode, Deanna, and hopefully we'll have you back for a future episode.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Luki. I really appreciate it. And thank you for everybody who's listening.
Thanks for joining us on the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at Lukidanu, LUKIDANU, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.